There are certain structures in our society we take for granted. They are so foundational, so reliable. They feel less like constructions and more like features of the landscape. For generations, the college degree was one of those structures. It was a great stone bridge, a promise etched in granite. You paid the toll, often a steep one, in tuition and time. You walked across its 4-year span, and you arrived safely and predictably on the other side. And that other side was the solid ground of a stable, entry-level, white-collar career. It was a promise, an axiom of the American economy. But what happens when that bridge begins to fail? Not with a single dramatic collapse that makes the evening news, but with a series of stress fractures. A quiet, insidious crumbling that happens almost too slowly to notice until you look closely. This week, the data isn't just showing another crack in the facade. It's revealing that the very foundation stones of the bridge, the entry-level jobs that form its support pillars, are being eroded by a silent, algorithmic current. We're not just watching people struggle to cross anymore. We're watching the bridge itself become unreliable. And the people stranded in the middle, looking back at the investment they made and forward at an uncertain shore, are the class of 2025. Welcome back to AI Replaced Me. It's June 28th, 2025, and I'm your host, Koby Ofek. This is episode 8, and we're calling it The Broken Bridge. Today, we're investigating the alarming breakdown of one of the most fundamental promises of the modern economy, that a college degree is a direct on-ramp to a professional career. We look at the shocking new numbers coming out of both the US and the UK, hear from the Wall Street titans who are now sounding the alarm, and explore how this isn't just a job crisis, but a crisis of experience itself. Every so often, a piece of economic data is released that is so anomalous, so contrary to decades of established wisdom, that it forces you to stop and question the underlying assumptions of the entire system. We got one of those data points this week. On June 26th, the Associated Press reported on the latest U.S. employment figures, and buried within them was a statistical bombshell. For the first time in over 3 decades, excluding the chaotic, immediate shock of the pandemic, the unemployment rate for recent college graduates now significantly exceeds the national average. Let me say that again because it bears repeating. The unemployment rate for young people with a degree is higher than for the general population. The numbers are stark. The jobless rate for degree holders aged 22 to 27 has hit 5.8%. That's a level we haven't seen since the depths of the post-Great Recession recovery in 2012. More importantly, it is substantially higher than the overall national unemployment rate of 4.2%. That 1.6 percentage point gap is the widest it has been in more than 30 years. A profound and disturbing reversal of a long-standing economic axiom. For generations, a college degree was your best insurance against unemployment. Now, for those just starting out, it seems to be a risk factor. And this isn't just a strange American phenomenon. The story echoes across the Atlantic. In the United Kingdom, the graduate job market is facing what the Financial Times called a stark reality check. According to the job platform, indeed, graduate roles in the UK have plummeted by a staggering 33% year-on-year. Openings are at their lowest level since 2018. While factors like new employer taxes are playing a role, the report explicitly points to the accelerating adoption of artificial intelligence as a distinct and unsettling force, with employers deploying AI to handle tasks traditionally assigned to fresh graduates in fields like HR, marketing, and media. The UK, already struggling with a weaker post-pandemic job market than its peers, is providing a grim preview of what happens when economic headwinds meet the full force of AI automation at the entry level. These statistics, of course, have a human face. The Associated Press report tells the stories of graduates like Palwasha Zahid and Lexi Lindo, who, despite strong resumes and relevant internships, are facing unprecedented difficulty securing a foothold in their chosen fields. Their experience is being replicated in dorm rooms and family homes across the country. We see stories online of graduates from top-tier universities with engineering degrees and leadership experience who still can't find work in their field, ending up in low-wage jobs just to get by. This isn't a story about lack of qualifications or effort. It's a story about a fundamental disconnect between the supply of educated young people and a market that no longer seems to have a place for them on the first rung of the ladder. And this brings us to the core of the crisis. The problem isn't just that some jobs are disappearing. The true systemic crisis is what I call the experience paradox. The very tasks that are being automated with the greatest efficiency are precisely those that once served as the training wheels for a professional career. Think about it. What did a junior lawyer, a first-year financial analyst, or an entry-level IT technician do? They did document review, data entry, basic coding, compliance checks, and preliminary research. These were often repetitive, sometimes tedious tasks, but they were never just about the tasks themselves. They were low-risk, high-repetition opportunities for a new hire to learn the fundamentals of a business, its language, its processes, its culture. It was how you learned the ropes. It was how you gained experience. Now, AI is exceptionally good at those tasks. Legal tech startups like Harvey AI are automating first-pass document reviews for the world's top law firms. On Wall Street, AI is handling the grunt work of updating charts and valuation tables that once consumed the 100-hour workweeks of junior analysts. In IT, basic system monitoring and data sorting are increasingly handled by algorithms. So what happens when AI removes that first rung of the ladder? Companies are, in effect, expecting new hires to arrive with skills that were previously learned on the job. A recent survey from the admissions consulting firm Spark Admissions confirms this, finding that over half of companies are eliminating entry-level positions and redesigning the ones that remain to require higher order skills from day one. This creates an impossible catch-22 for graduates. They can't get a job without experience, but the very jobs that have always provided that foundational experience are being automated out of existence. This isn't a temporary jobs problem. It's a systemic failure of the entire talent pipeline. The bridge isn't just cracked. Its very supports are being washed away. When a Silicon Valley CEO talks about AI changing the world, we tend to take it with a grain of salt. They are, after all, selling a product. Their optimism is part of the marketing, but when one of the most successful risk managers in the history of Wall Street sounds the alarm, you listen differently. This isn't about hype. It's about a professional hazard assessment from a man whose entire career has been built on identifying and pricing systemic risk. This week, the legendary hedge fund manager Paul Tudor Jones published an essay in Time magazine with a headline that leaves no room for ambiguity. I've spent my life measuring risk. AI rings every one of my alarm bells. This is a significant moment. It signals that the conversation about AI risk has officially migrated from tech conferences and academic papers to the trading floors and boardrooms where the global economy's fate is decided. And what is the very first piece of evidence Jones presents to justify his alarm? The canary in the coal mine we were just discussing. He opens his essay by citing that same stark data point, the 5.8% unemployment rate for recent college graduates. For Jones, this isn't just a labor market statistic. He sees it as the first tangible, real-time indicator of the massive, white-collar displacement that he and others, like Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei, have been warning about. The prediction that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and push unemployment into the 10 to 20% range. For a risk manager, this isn't a future possibility. It's a trend that has already begun, and the first casualties are the young. What truly elevates Jones's warning is his sharp critique of the political response, or lack thereof. He points with alarm to a proposal from the Trump administration for a 10-year moratorium on states' rights to regulate AI. Jones's response is scathing and precise. In AI time, he writes, 10 years is a millennium. This single sentence perfectly captures the dangerous chasm between the exponential pace of technological change and the linear, often glacial, speed of our legislative and regulatory systems. To pause regulation, he argues, is to willfully ignore the lessons of every past financial disaster, which he notes were all caused because someone sold optionality on something they did not fully understand. But Jones doesn't just sound the alarm. He offers a concrete, pragmatic framework for mitigation. He lays out 4 immediate, decisive actions that need to be taken. First, transparency. He calls for a federal law to watermark all AI-generated content, so we can distinguish machine creation from human authenticity. Second, accountability. He demands the criminalization of AI fraud and intent to harm, establishing clear legal guardrails against malicious use. Third, equity. This is perhaps his most crucial point. He proposes a new, bipartisan U.S. commission to address the sharing of productivity gains. This is a direct acknowledgement that if the immense wealth generated by AI flows only to shareholders, leaving the workforce behind, the result will be catastrophic social and political instability. And fourth, cooperation. He calls for bilateral talks with China to establish shared safety protocols, a pragmatic recognition that this is a global challenge that transcends geopolitical rivalries. What Paul Tudor Jones is doing here is masterful and incredibly important. He is reframing the AI threat. The conversation around AI risk often veers into the abstract and existential. Superintelligence, rogue AIs, the end of humanity. Threats he himself acknowledges. But the core of his argument in this essay is grounded in the language of finance. He's not talking about Skynet. He's talking about unemployment rates, municipal bankruptcies, and strained social safety nets. He's comparing the current moment not to a science fiction movie, but to the market crash of 1987 and the Great Financial Crisis, events he navigated personally. This translation of a technological problem into a financial one makes it legible, urgent, and unavoidable for the worlds of capital and policy. It moves the AI threat out of the realm of philosophical debate and places it squarely on the balance sheet. It becomes a risk that can be priced, insured against, and invested in. Paul Tudor Jones isn't just ringing an alarm bell. He's putting a price tag on ignoring it. And that is a sound that Wall Street and Washington cannot afford to ignore. So, with the bridge for new graduates clearly crumbling and Wall Street's watchtowers flashing red, how is the actual world of work adapting? The picture is complex, messy, and filled with contradictions. It's a landscape where some roles are growing even as they are being augmented, where universities are scrambling to teach a new curriculum, and where corporate leaders are resorting to some very old and very questionable motivational tactics. Let's start with the augmentation paradox. The story of AI's impact isn't one of simple replacement. The latest projections from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, for instance, paint a picture of simultaneous growth and decline. On one hand, they project significant growth in roles that are being heavily augmented by AI. Jobs for software developers are expected to increase by nearly 18%, adding over 300,000 positions by 2033. Personal financial advisors are projected to grow by over 17%. This supports the AI as a co-pilot narrative, where the technology handles rote tasks, freeing up humans for higher-level strategy, creativity, and client interaction. But on the other hand, the BLS projects a clear decline in roles that are heavy on pattern recognition and rule-based assessment. Credit analysts are projected to fall by 3.9%, and insurance appraisers by a steep 9.2%. And just this week, a new report from the International Labor Organization added a chilling new wrinkle to this story. While their overall assessment points more toward job transformation than elimination, they specifically note that automation potential is increasing for media and web-related occupations. Why? Because generative AI is now achieving a level of quality in voice, image, and video generation that directly challenges human creators. This punctures the comfortable narrative that creativity is a uniquely human safe harbor. The frontier of what can be automated is constantly, relentlessly advancing. In the face of this shifting ground, our institutions of higher education are scrambling to adapt. We're seeing a flurry of activity. The University of Pennsylvania has launched the Ivy League's first undergraduate degree in artificial intelligence engineering. Harvard Business School now has a mandatory AI course for all its first-year MBA students, complete with custom AI tutors and data analysis tools. Universities across the country are creating AI centers, minors, and certificate programs, trying to equip their students with what they believe are the necessary skills for the new economy. But is it enough? One could argue this is a laudable, necessary response, but one could also see it as a fundamentally reactive measure that misses the core of the problem. Universities are teaching skills, AI literacy, data analysis, prompt engineering, but as we've established, the market is now demanding experience. By automating the entry-level tasks that once provided this experience, AI has effectively firewalled graduates from the very on-ramps where they could apply their new knowledge. The universities are building a better on-ramp, but it leads to a bridge that is no longer there. They are solving for a knowledge gap, but the real crisis is an experience gap. This uncertainty and disconnect is perhaps best reflected in a bizarre new trend in corporate management. A recent report from Axios revealed that some executives, including at giants like Amazon, are now explicitly using the threat of AI as a motivational tool. The message from the top is stark. Embrace these new AI tools, or risk your role becoming obsolete. It's motivation by Menace. On its face, this seems like a terribly cynical and counterproductive way to foster innovation. Fear breeds anxiety and stifles creativity, the very things needed to leverage AI effectively. But it may also reveal a deeper truth about the C-suite. A recent McKinsey study found a massive disconnect between executive perception and employee reality when it comes to AI. Leaders dramatically underestimate how much their employees are already using these tools, often in a bottom-up, shadow IT fashion. So this motivational stick strategy might not be a sign of strength, but of weakness. A clumsy attempt by an out-of-touch leadership class to wrest back control and impose a top-down strategy on a workforce that is already adapting on its own terms. Ultimately, this brings us back to the central fracture point. We keep talking about a skills gap, but that term is becoming a misnomer. The real chasm is between knowledge and validated experience. AI is rapidly commoditizing the former, making vast stores of information and technical execution available to anyone. But at the same time, it is eliminating the very pathways, the apprenticeships, the entry-level grunt work that have always been necessary to forge raw knowledge into valuable, battle-tested experience. AI can draft a legal memo, but it can't yet stand in a partner's office and defend its strategic implications. By automating the draft, we are removing the training ground for the defense. The bridge cannot be repaired with the same old materials of curriculum reform alone. It requires a new design, a fundamental rethinking of how we create experience in a world that no longer wants to pay for the learning curve. All right, let's look at the horizon with a few quick flashes from the front lines.
Oh my goodness! Time for future forward flashes!
Flash 1. The Canaries confirmed. The 5.8% unemployment rate for recent U.S. college graduates is no longer just a warning signal. It's the first official casualty report from the front lines of AI's silent coup on white-collar work. Flash 2. The experience paradox quantified. The core crisis isn't just job loss, but experience loss. AI is removing the training wheels from professions like law, finance, and IT, creating a generation of knowledgeable but inexperienced graduates with no on-ramp to a career. Flash 3. The productivity sharing imperative. With AI's productivity gains now being explicitly linked to graduate job losses by figures like Paul Tudor Jones, his call for a bipartisan commission on sharing those gains is no longer a theoretical debate. It's an urgent economic necessity to prevent massive social instability. Flash 4. Motivation by Menace. The corporate strategy of using AI as a threat is the latest and perhaps most toxic symptom of this transition. It reveals a leadership class that is more comfortable wielding fear than it is forging a clear collaborative vision for a human AI future. We began today by talking about a broken bridge. What we found is that the problem is even deeper. It's not just that the crossing is treacherous. It's that the very ground on the other side is shifting. The promise of a degree was never just about getting a job. It was about getting the start of a career, the first step on a path, the bottom rung of a ladder you could climb. For decades, the great fear was that AI would come for the jobs of experienced mid-career professionals. That automation would hollow out the middle. But the data this week, the stories from the front lines, they paint a different and in some ways more tragic picture. AI is coming for the beginning of the story first. It's not just stealing jobs. It's stealing the future by removing the first step. It is erasing the learning curve. The greatest challenge for this generation isn't just finding a job, it's finding a way to begin. Navigating this new, ladderless world requires a different kind of map. It's about building resilience, about being in constant beta mode, and about finding your unique human value when the traditional paths have crumbled into rubble. That's the proactive adaptation we all have to make. And it's the central idea I explore in my book, Keep Your Day Job: How to AI-Proof Your Career. It's available on Amazon and wherever you get your books. Join me next week on AI Replaced Me as we continue to track the signals in this ever-changing landscape. Thanks for tuning in.